Hi, my name is Marianne Cascade, and today I am giving an informative speech on quilts, past, present, and future. And the purpose of this speech is to inform you on the history of quilting, how it works in today's society, and a little bit about how we think it will be in the future. Quilting has evolved from a necessity, such as making quilted clothing and bed covers to keep loved ones warm, into an art form in today's society. I know that me personally, I have family members that have been quilters, and most everybody has seen a quilt, or at least has a rudimentary understanding of what a quilt is. Quilting, by definition, is two pieces of fabric with something in the middle, and then you stitch it to create a design. Quilting has been done throughout history. It is several hundred to possibly thousands of years old. One of the earliest surviving pieces of quilting we have is from around 1395. It is a quilted tapestry, all done by hand, that is hanging in a museum in Sicily. That's one of the earliest forms that has managed to survive, because fabrics and linens don't last as long as other art forms. Quilting came to Europe by way of the Crusades. Muslim warriors wore quilted vests and quilted clothing on under their armor to protect their skin from their armor, and that was brought over to Europe. That idea was brought to Europe, where the women then started making quilted clothing from it. Again, it was a lot of times worn under armor. It became part of different warriors and such as that. It came to to what we know now as the U.S. with the European settlers, but back then they didn't have as much time to actually make quilts or anything like that. They were weaving and spinning their own fabric. In the mid-1800s, manufacturing of textiles came about, and that was when women, they didn't have to make their own fabric anymore, and they could actually start making quilts and quilted clothing and such. From that point on, it just kind of took off like wildfire, and then different types of quilting came about. In the late 1800s, there was a phase or a fad known as Victorian quilting, where they would take bits of silk and other fabrics and made what we call crazy quilts, because it was just different patches of different fabric, no batting in between, done with embroidery stitches. They were basically showing off how beautiful their handwork was. In about the 1930s or so, during the Depression era, women started using feed sacks and such to make quilts. They would go to the country store and they would get flour, cornmeal, chicken feed, such, in feed sacks. And eventually the manufacturers caught on that women were using these feed sacks as fabric for clothing and quilts and such, and they started printing designs on them. And so the women would use those, and they would reuse the string too, and they would create beautiful, colorful quilts out of them. And that's an example of a feed sack quilt. And about the 1940s, it kind of fell by the wayside. It was central heating was coming into place, and women were going to work, and they didn't have as much time to do stuff like that. So it kind of fell by the wayside. It was something that grandma did or great-grandma did. About the 1970s, the Back to Earth movement saw a resurgence of quilting. And it has grown since the 1970s into a multi-billion-dollar industry, with machines, fabric lines coming out twice a year. We've even had quilting in space. Her name is Linda Nyberg. She's an astronaut that actually did some quilting and piecing in outer space when she was up there. And it was around October 2013, I want to say. So, I mean, we've gone to space as far as quilters are concerned. In the future, there's so much technology. Everything is going digital. There is electronic software you can use on your computer, where you don't need a designer to make the pattern for you. You can come up with your own quilting designs. You can design your own fabric, everything. I think the future is limitless as far as quilting is concerned. And one day, I'd like to think that I'll have a great-great-grandchild that will be living on another planet or on a space station somewhere, that will have a quilt that I made. and we'll think about, and hopefully pick up needle and thread and try it and realize that this is an art form that has gone throughout history. And as a matter of fact, even this is like a timepiece in history a little bit. This is a quilt that is of a portrait of a child, but it was all quilted, all done by quilting. And that's one of the ones that a lot of artistic quilters are doing nowadays. The future is limitless.